Hello and welcome. During this day of International Day of Women, I would like to speak about the invisible women of Kenya who sustain the economy. They are the mama mbogas, the vibanda women, the women tea pickers, the women coffee pickers, and of course the market women. These women are the cogs of the Kenyan economy, yet they are not recognized in great hotels or given awards. They are not celebrated in dinners or that. Yet, during this International Day of Women, they are in churches praying, waiting to start work the next day in the vibadas as Mama Mboga, as Mama Fua, as farmers and everybody. The title of my topic today is The Invisible Architecture of Survival, Structural Exclusion and the Agency of Kenya's Informal Economy. In the contemporary Kenyan urban landscape, a profound paradox exists between the statistical dominance of the informal economy and its spatial erasure. Or the Kenya Bureau of Statistics identifies that 15 million people, comprising 83% of the national workforce, operate in the within the informal sector. Urban planning remains anchored in a colonial era formalist bias. In this video, I examined the systemic marginalization of informal workers, ranging from mama bogas to artisans who are categorized as nobodies by a state apparatus that prioritizes corporate aesthetics over human livelihoods. By analyzing the recent demolition of vibadas on Thika Road, Roysambu, Githurai, Ruiru, and other places in Nairobi, this video argues for the transition from exclusionary modernity to an urbanism that is rooted in Utu, humanity, solidarity, and the recognition of the informal sector as a sophisticated ecosystem of care and local agency. The Kenyan economy is not driven solely by the shimmering glass towers of Upper Hill or the sanitized corporate boardrooms of Westlands. It is powered by the 83% of the population who exist outside the formal registry. These 15 million individuals, the mama mboga, the carpenters, the curbside mechanics, and the digital creatives are the primary drivers of the domestic consumption and essential providers of service delivery. Yet, a rigorous survey of the Nairobi master plans reveals a stuttering vacuum, virtually no permanent, dignified space is allocated to the informal trader. This lack of spatial justice forces the workforce into a precarious existence on road reserves and empty private plots as the city undergoes rapid modernization and expansion. The informal sector is treated not as a partner in growth, but as an aesthetic obstacle to be cleaned. The prevailing neoliberal logic dictates that these state citizens must fend for themselves, yet the state simultaneously criminalizes the very spaces they occupy to do exactly that. This creates a cycle of displacement where the city expands outward and upward while its foundational workers are pushed further into the margins. The sociology of the rejected. The workforce in the informal economy is frequently and unfairly mischaracterized as unskilled or uneducated. Such labels ignores the deliberate systemic barriers that prevent formal entry. To understand the informal sector, one must understand the machinery of exclusion that produces it. Educational stratification is a filter. In regions like Gatodo North, where I come from, the formal education system acts as a filter rather than a ladder. Statistics indicates that an alarming 85% of Form 4 graduates scored a grade D and below or in the 2025 examination. In a system that equates human value with exam performance, these youth are effectively rejected by the state-sanctioned labor market before they even enter it. They are not lacking in intelligence or life. They are simply survivors of a system designed to cater to an elite minority. Intergenerational marginalization. Many informal workers are the offsprings of parents who were similarly excluded. The formal economy in Kenya often operates on social capital, English accents, proximity to power, specific professional networks, or innovators' credentials. Without these markers, individuals are locked out of corporate government nexus. This creates a hereditary form of marginalization where the children of people with low incomes are destined for the vibanda because linguistic and social gatekeepers bar the gates of the formal world. The trauma of periphery. A significant portion of this demographic consists of survivors of political instability and gender-based violence. For many, the informal economy is the only accessible safety net in a society that offers no social security or state-sponsored protection. In the eyes of the urban elite, the financiers and planners, these individuals are viewed as disposable or less than human. This dehumanization is a psychological prerequisite for state-sanctioned violence often visited upon them. The violence of order, a case study in demolition. The recent wave of vibanda demolition in Nairobi serves as a chilling illustration of this systemic apathy. These were not merely cleanup exercises. They were targeted assault on the city's social and economic fabric, especially targeted to women. Many women cried. They cried, but nobody heard their cry. The public discourse surrounding these demolitions reveals a fractured national psyche. While the displaced cried for their lost livelihood, sections of the middle class and the planner class celebrated. Their rhetoric focused on cleaning the roads and forcing traders into rent-paying formal spaces. This demand ignores the fundamental reality that the formal economy is currently structurally incapable of absorbing 15 million people. The catastrophic ripple effect. When a kibanda is leveled by a bulldozer, the destruction extends far beyond the physical structures. It triggers a cascade of social failures, education interruption. The daily income from a vegetable stall often pays for a child's secondary school. When the store is gone, the child's future is put on hold. Health crisis. For the urban poor, there is no insurance. The kibanda is the pharmacy. Its earnings buy the medicine for an elderly parent in the village. Social fragmentation. The immediate loss of income plunges family back into a cycle of poverty that they have spent years trying to climb out of. Where is the Utu? Where is empathy? Where is the constitutional mandate for citizen protection? A city that expands by destroying its people means of survival is not developing, it's cannibalizing itself. The informal ecosystem, an economy of care. Contrary to the disorganized or chaotic labels often applied by modernist planners, the informal economy operates as a highly sophisticated, indigenous-led development base. It functions through a series of value chains and social philosophies that the formal sector often lacks. Functional outcomes of the informal sector. Subsidized food chains. Mama Bogas provide the last mile delivery of nutrition, bridging the gap between rural production and urban consumption, making the city life affordable. Indigenous financing. Through the JAMA and resource pooling, the informal workers engage in innovative banking and bypass predatory formal interest rates. Social well-being. Unlike profit at all cost corporate model, the informal sector prioritizes an economy of care that supports youth and women in localized clusters. Local agents. These spaces are the primary sites where local innovation, unfettered by Western-centric standards, takes root and flourishes. The philosophy of the informal, land, labor, and solidarity. The informal economy represents a way of life that fundamentally challenges the standard capitalist separation of labor from life. In the kibanda, work is not just exchange of time for money, it's a manifestation of community. Self-reliance and dignity. Individuals in this sector work for themselves, refusing to be defeated by a system that has rejected them. This is self-reliance. This self-reliance is an act of resistance against marginalization. Resource pooling. Transactions in the informal economy are rarely just a swap of currency for goods. They are acts of solidarity. When resources are pooled to help a neighbor whose child is sick, the economy serves the person rather than person serving the economy. Reciprocity and gifting. The practice of breaking bread or extending credit to a regular customer ensures that the community survives together. There is no separation between land, labor, and consumption. They are all woven into the same tapestry of survival. Conclusion: reclaiming the urban commons. The ongoing exclusion of 83% of the workforce is more than a social injustice. It is a structural ticking bomb for Kenyan urbanity. To build a truly resilient and urban city, we must move beyond the English accent requirement for economic citizenship. We must stop running for a fantasy version of Nairobi and start planning for the Nairobi that actually exists. Toward integrated urbanism, academic and policy intervention must pivot towards integrated urbanism. This requires three fundamental shifts: legal recognition. We must transition from merely tolerating the informal sector to legally protecting their right to occupy specific urban commons. This means zoning for vibadas with the same permanence as zoning for malls, infrastructure provision, designing urban spaces for water, waste management, and security specifically for informal traders. If the state can provide infrastructure for a multinational factory, it can provide a tap and a roof for a mama mboga. Human-centric planning. We must introduce the concept of Utu in the planning curriculum. Our universities, future architects, and must see people, not just encroachments. The informal economy is not a shadow. It's a light by which the vast majority of Kenyans live. It is a source of institutional hope and a base for indigenous development. Until the city plans for the artisan and the small-scale trader with the same fervor it plans for the financial, its expansion will remain a hollow achievement, a city of stone with no soul. Thank you for listening to me and happy Women's Day. Let's plan for Mama Mboga. Let's give her a roof and a tap. Let's have cities that are not of stone, but cities that have a soul. Thank you for listening to me and have a good Women's Day. Thank you.